Hello everybody, it's me, Fee, White Zulu, and I want to welcome you to another chapter of, another chapter of Okavango Diary, and I hope you're enjoying these readings. I want to welcome you all, and if you are enjoying them, please share or press the like button or whatever people do if they want to. I'm sorry, I'm a bit car today. I haven't got any words in front of me to read, so I'm doing this off the cuff. However, this is a greeting to you all and a welcome, and I hope that you enjoy these chapters that I'm reading out. They go out twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, if all goes well, and enjoy them. And thank you so much for listening to them. Share them around. Thank you and goodbye. Hello everybody, it's me, Fee, White Zulu. Welcome to another chapter, but this one is something different. This is the entire diary I kept when I was working in the bush, 2 luxury bush camps in the Okavango Delta. And I kept a diary. It's called the Okavango Diary. And this is chapter 1. I want to welcome you all to this channel and thank you all to everybody who's subscribed, and to encourage you to share this and hit the notification button so when I'm putting new stuff up, you'll get it. And I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. So this is nothing to do with White Zulu, my autobiography. This is another book I wrote, one of 5. And it's about my work as a camp manager in 2 different camps in the Delta. It's called Okavango Diary, Chapter 1, Air Botswana. I wondered to myself as the airport bus took us over the tarmac and further away from the terminus at Johannesburg Airport, whether we were actually going to drive to Botswana. Eventually, on the furthermost runway, shimmering in the blazing midday heat, stood our aircraft. It was an old Air Botswana, known fondly by us as AirBotch, Dakota DC-3, a valiant workhorse which had originally been built in 1935. The old twin-prop DC was being prepared for departure. Its rather alarmingly battered aluminium body displayed dents and pockmarks from what I hoped had been hailstones. I climbed up the rickety steps and found myself a seat. The plane held about 40 passengers, and I stowed my hand luggage under my upright metal seat, which is more like that of a bus rather than an aircraft, and took a surreptitious look around at my fellow passengers. There were a few Tswana businessmen sweating profusely in their shiny black suits, and a large group of tourists from various parts of Europe. Botswana is the prime destination for safaris, and I was on my way there to start my job as manager, running 2 luxury lodges in the heart of the Okavango Delta. The tourists wore khaki outfits which had been bought in fashion outlets in Paris, Milan, or Zurich. Crisp, brand new tailored safari suits with leather and brass accessories. I saw every detail had been taken care of. Some men even wore snake-proof gaiters. The heat in the cabin was about 40 degrees centigrade, and I hoped we'd waste no time in taking off. Our flight attendant was a large, cheerful Tswana woman. Her chic navy suit skirt straining inadequately to contain her generous behind. She yanked the door shut, and with no further ceremony, the ancient DC lumbered away down the runway and heaved itself laboriously into the air like a great bellowing elephant, the entire body shaking and vibrating horribly. I looked around again to see the Europeans were clutching the metal arms of their seats so tightly that their knuckles were white. At cruising height, the plane juddered to a fairly level angle, and I sat back to enjoy the 4-hour flight, while trying not to think about the worrying fate of the rest of the AirBotch fleet of 3 aircraft. The airline's only Tswana pilot had developed a grudge against his employers. Nobody was sure whether he was having domestic problems as well, or it was over a pay rise, but he was on final approach, coming into Maun airport, when he radioed air traffic control to tell them that he was going to destroy their plane. He then crash-landed the fortunately empty plane into the 2 other passenger planes parked on the runway, destroying all 3 aircraft and killing himself. Air Botch was left with this single remaining elderly DC-3 to continue their service. The reason I was on my way to Botswana was that I'd been offered a job running 2 luxury camps as relief manager, allowing the permanent manager and his wife to go on leave for 3 months. My first posting was to be at Saro, meaning elephant, camp, right on the border of the Moremi Game Reserve. Apart from that, I knew very little about what my job entailed, other than to have received a hefty instruction manual along with a contract. After reading the manual, I discovered that I would be in charge of laundry, cooking, ordering in supplies, and would have a staff of approximately 12 river bushmen, women under my command. I speak fluent Zulu and pretty good Xhosa, but did not have one word of Tswana, which is the language spoken in Botswana. I had been reassured that the staff all spoke a bit of English, but that my fluency in French would come in very useful. There was also going to be my male counterpart, the relief camp manager, a man who would be in charge of all the game guides, machinery, including the game drive vehicles, as well as the generator. The third white member of staff would be the host, a young man or woman who would be in charge of the bar, the gift shop, and also billing the guests. The permanent staff worked for 3 months straight and then had a month off. Myself, my main counterpart, the manager, and a relief host came in for that month to run the outfit, going over to the other camp for the 2nd month, and then I would be doing a month as hostess in whichever camp needed a stand-in to allow theirs to go on leave. If anybody got sick or injured, then we stepped in to hold the fort. After 3 months' work, we got a month off for ourselves. The pay was very low, 2,000 pula per month. At the exchange rate of pula to pounds in 1997, that would have been approximately £500 a month. But the perks of working in such an extraordinary environment were phenomenal. Botswana has world-class game viewing, and the food and accommodation was to 5-star standards. People from all around the world pay thousands of pounds or dollars to spend a couple of nights there, and was completely out of the reach of South African people's pockets. We were the folk who worked there. Even though I'd gone into a slight remission, I was still experiencing all the symptoms associated with myalgic encephalomyelitis, ME. Along with severe muscle and joint pain, I suffered from constant and extreme fatigue, which appeared without any obvious reason and didn't get better with rest. I had difficulties concentrating, loss of memory, daily headaches so severe that they could be described as migraines, sleep problems, and swollen lymph nodes. I still have that today. To add to all that, I had clouding of consciousness known as brain fog and night sweats, as well as a fair amount of anxiety that I wouldn't be up to the job. I had managed nearly 6 years of grueling, hard physical work and long hours with disturbed nights at CROW, Centre for Rehabilitation of Wildlife, working as a veterinary nurse there, and survived that. As I had done with the job at CROW, in order to get and keep my position as wildlife veterinary nurse, I had hidden my disease and made no mention of it. The owners of the safari company I was going to work for knew me through my parents and were aware that I wasn't 100% well, but, like my parents, believed I wasn't that sick. I had assured them that I was up to the job, citing my previous years at CROW, which reassured them. In order to secure this job, I had also been put through a rigorous psychological test, which I had passed with flying colours. Nobody really knew the extent of how ill I really was, not even my own family, and particularly my parents, neither of whom had known a day's illness in their lives. In order to get away to Botswana to do my dream job, I'd also rallied myself and given the impression that I was better than I really was. I had no other options. Whatever job I did to keep a roof over my head would entail dragging myself around and using up all my resources of energy, taking as much rest as I could whenever I had the opportunity. I was roused from my reverie by the cabin attendant, who announced that refreshments were about to be served. There was no such thing as a tray on the backs of the seats, and the aisle was too narrow to accommodate a beverage cart, nor, I noticed, could the attendant fit herself, except by turning sideways and squeezing her large bulk with great difficulty between the rows of seats. Undeterred, she kicked 2 battered styrofoam cool boxes from underneath the front seats and, digging around in the contents, proceeded to shout down the aisle to us, "Juice or Coke?" and then tossing the requested beverage in its carton or can to the startled passengers. Once we had caught our drinks, she pulled out buns, each filled with some sort of processed meat or cheese, and tightly wrapped in many layers of cling film. These she threw to us, and we snatched them out of mid-air as they hurtled past our heads. I was laughing as much as her ingenuity as the expressions on the faces of the Europeans who were not accustomed to the spirit of aviation the African way. The rest of the flight was uneventful, and we landed at Maun airport in Botswana and proceeded through a cursory customs check. Maun is a typically African town, a cluster of tin-roofed huts huddled around a few larger buildings like a cash and carry supermarket and a liquor outlet called the Bottle Store. It had a very busy airport due to the fact that Maun is the gateway to the Okavango Delta. All the safari lodges in the vast, game-rich, grassy plains of Botswana are serviced by light aircraft, which flew all the staff, guests and supplies into their remote locations. As a result of the tourist activity, there was also a hotel in the centre of town and a bar called the Duck Inn, which is situated conveniently on the very edge of the tarmac runway. It was now 4:45 p.m. and I had been waiting for well over an hour for someone from Heartless Safari's office to collect me. Eventually, a short, middle-aged woman driving a tiny, rusty Datsun pickup skidded into the sand car park and pushed open the passenger door for me. Her name was Pauline, and she apologized profusely to me for the delay. Rats had eaten through the ignition wiring again, she told me, and it had taken her longer than usual to hotwire the vehicle. I raised my eyebrows at the rats bit part, and she explained that at that time of the year, as the spring rains falling in the highlands of Angola filled the Okavango River, the waters in the delta began to rise, gradually flooding the dry plains. As a result, millions of rats made for higher ground in and around Maun, making their new homes anywhere and everywhere. There were so many nesting in her truck at night that she had to bang on the sides to evacuate them all. And before she could get in it to drive to her office, a tin shed behind the cash and carry every morning, once she had parked, a new population of rats would invade the engine and cab, chewing through seats, pipes, and wiring alike. We sped through the sandy, potholed tarmac's main street of Maun, and Pauline frequently swerved, cursing, as a donkey or goat ambled across the road. I saw a donkey carcass lying, legs sticking up and belly bloated, in the hot sand just off the edge of the tarred road. I wondered what impression Maun would leave on the tourists in their luxury air-conditioned shuttle bus on the way to their hotel. Maun. I sat in the office and watched while Pauline supervised the loading of a corrugated tin hut onto the back of an ancient Bedford Army lorry. The sweating Botswaners shouted in unison as they heaved the shed up onto the truck, their pitch-black torsos glistening in the fierce heat. "It's the generator hut going to Tsaro camp," she explained. "An elephant sat on the last one and squashed it flat." I nodded, wordlessly, my mind conjuring up a wonderful mental image. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my videos and my stories of my life. And I want to thank John Moslane for being what I call the sound engineer but I'm sure there's a more professional word for it. However, faithful, and for 4 years now, I think, he has been here for me every Wednesday. Well, I think it's Wednesdays, but once a week to record 2 chapters of whichever book it is I'm reading. And without him, this couldn't be done. So a big thank you to John. Also, Sean van Vuren, we send the videos to him. Sorry, I'm not reading this. I'm just doing it off the cuff. And my brain is a bit Jumaka. And Sean uploads them to the YouTube channel where you can find them all in playlists. He does it beautifully. And I want to thank them both for all the help that they give me. Well, it's not help. They do everything for me. And it's a great asset. So also, I have a website called whitezulubook.com, obviously www in front of it, but you'll find it there. Quite easy to find. Johnny Clegg's called The White Zulu. Mine's called White Zulu. And you will find on my website, you'll find all kinds of photographs going way back to when my ancestors settled in the Cape, 1652. Well, not photographs of them, but descriptions. This photograph of my grandmother's wedding, and lovely, lovely photos of the farm we still own. My sister sent me a photograph this morning of the farm in midsummer, and she says how beautiful it's looking. I've had a lot of rain. So, just want to thank my helpers, John and Sean, to thank you all for listening, and also please share this with everybody else. Hit the like button and enjoy. Goodbye.